it down. Our session is titled Join the Team, Ready to Launch. And many of you know me as the director of the Community Virtual Library. I'm Dr. Valerie Hill, and our theme this year, Reaching for the Stars, means expanding beyond known territory. And that endeavor requires many talented members contributing to the team's short-term and long-term goals. So today, our goal is to help educators think about how we can best meet the goals in virtual learning environments through joining a team, through teamwork. And we're going to show you some examples of educational communities that have worked together to combine their talents and their skills and their efforts for best learning outcomes. Because we really do believe that it's essential that we all work together. We're in this together as educators. And here we are seeing it at this conference, some amazing immersive builds that bring curriculum right into virtual worlds. Yet we've found that there are many people in education and all fields and subject areas that still have no idea about Second Life and other virtual worlds. So our first question is, how do we reach the stars in virtual worlds? How can we share and advocate what education is already doing, also where it's heading in these virtual spaces? We can help navigate these virtual spaces. We can combine our efforts. We can each contribute our own unique skills because we don't all share the same talents and skills. We can connect educational communities. We can collaborate across groups. We can promote high quality work of our colleagues. So let's hear from a few of the Community Virtual Library team members who are contributing to virtual worlds through collaboration across platforms and across communities. First, we're going to hear from Wordsmith, who is at Caledon, Oxbridge University.
Thank you, Val. About 2 years ago, I saw this notice for a literary study group organizational meeting and dropped in with a friend. And they started talking about short stories and science fiction. And I suggested a story that would be good to read and discuss. And I've never quit doing that somehow. That month by month, we have a story that sometimes we'll listen to if it's audio. Most recently, we watched a video from Twilight Zone, and other times we've read ahead. But, you know, humankind has long looked up at the stars, long started dreaming of what's there, and then as we learned first to tell stories, and then write stories, so now we can read and discuss them. And I've tried to capture some of the discussions. I guess next slide. At the bottom of this, there's a link to where I've got up through the end of last year archived. I still have to catch up on this year. But in choosing stories with the help of friends, I've tried to go where we have diversity, where the stories aren't about some new ray gun or some new device, but much more about the characters. And I say characters because they're not always people. We've had characters that were robots that did something unexpected. We've had a character that lived in the walls and accepted small change. A killer robot that protected a oil pipeline, but also loved music and would protect somebody who made the right kind of music. So there's a diversity of things that we can discuss. And the idea is to present different situations and get us thinking together. And the sense of being together either at CVL's campfire or I created a meeting center on Caledon. I think that's about it, Val.
Great, Wordsmith. And you can see on this slide, sometimes we sit around the campfire there at the Community Virtual Library, and we alternate every other month. So it's a great example of how communities can come together around storytelling, around literature, and virtual worlds allow us to bring these communities together. So thank you, Wordsmith. It's great to collaborate with Caledon, which happens to be the first sim that I explored when I first came into a virtual world. And it's an awesome, awesome place. I look forward to it every month. So anyone is welcome to come to this. You can contact either Wordsmith or me later. We always meet on the second Thursday of the month at 5 o'clock Second Life time. Wordsmith does a great job choosing some really great different sci-fi stories, and there's no pressure to read them ahead of time. Sometimes we just have discussions on a lot of high-tech topics. Science fiction makes for great talking in a virtual world because a lot of the science fiction themes, have already happened or have happened in new ways that we didn't expect. And next, we're going to hear from one of our newest Community Virtual Library volunteers. Ellie's going to come up and join me.
Thank you, Val. I've been working with the Community Virtual Library group for about 6 months, covering for the Second Life Community Virtual Library office hours 1 hour a week. This is a long-standing support position that offers assistance to new students coming to Second Life and visitors to the CVL, as well as a free extensive resource library located here in Second Life and in Untitled. One of the things that drew me to the CVL was their amazing projects, including the CVL, the Metaverse Library in Untitled, the Dickens Project, writers and artists, including poetry contests, the work with research, data and copyright law, AI, virtual reality, not to mention the biker librarian motorcycle rally, which was super fun. There is always something happening at CVL. I'm also pleased to be a part of the wonderful collaboration they have with other dynamic educational groups, such as Nonprofit Commons and Bacara. After being asked by my university to add virtual reality to the class that I teach on virtual worlds, it didn't take long as a member of CVL to connect with others doing the same work. This was a daunting task, and as Val mentioned, we as educators, and especially to ed tech educators, are always being expected to expand beyond what is known territory. Fortunately, because of my work with CVL, I was able to hear what others are doing, share their experience and information. And the VR group has done a wonderful survey of VR environments being used by educators, which was very helpful to get me started. I believe these collaborations are why CVL is able to offer the interesting projects they have across the metaverse. I found being a volunteer with CVL provides me with interesting opportunities to work with other dynamic educators and contribute my skills to the virtual world's education community while having the support of an organized and passionate community at my side. I always feel we are better together, and that is certainly true of CVL. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie, and we're just so glad to have you working with us because our goal is not really to build our community, but to stretch our community out to, as librarians, include other communities. There are so many great communities in virtual worlds for education. And we can't all do everything. We've got to have different uniques and talents. And we're going to especially get an example of that from our next panelist, who has helped CVL with her building skills, and that's Dawn. So Dawn's going to come up next.
Hi, everybody. So I had originally built a cafe in the shell of the music library for a session on artistic inspiration, and was already subsequently asked to work on the entire library. So the community virtual library people already had a detailed outline, and I agreed after reading through it and having Elise, the CVL assistant director, appoint herself as a liaison. I do have a full-time real-life library job.
Sorry you didn't get to hear the amazing things that Dawn has been doing for the Community Virtual Library, but hopefully you were able to see her slides and read the text. And I'm going to have to catch my text up here. So we heard from Wordsmith telling us all about the amazing Caledon collaboration. And then we heard from Ellie with her office hours and her connecting the nonprofit commons and Vicara and other communities with all the events that we work on together. And then Dawn told us about the new Marley Milena Music Library and showed these lovely pictures of some of her builds that she has been doing also in Kitely, where CVL is also working. And so now to catch you up, Elise is our assistant director, and I was in the middle of putting up what Elise was going to tell us about here, about her collaborations. And I had put that Marley is doing a symbolic modeling session here at the conference. Elise was going to tell us a bit about Vicara as well, and Vicara has a presentation right after this one. So it's going to talk about a survey in virtual reality. So we're really running a little bit tight on our time here. So I'll let Elise, if you want to say just a quick little bit here. I'm up to where we left off. Elise?
Thank you. Hopefully folks can hear me. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot. So Vicara is part of the San Jose State University School of Information. I got involved in it as an MLIS student getting my library degree. And CVL has been involved with them for even longer. So as far as that goes, we're at a crossroads. We have been exploring virtual reality as a possible alternative or just something else that we can do to help engage students and also to get more support from our university. We've been getting less and less support on the virtual world sides of things, 3D anyway, and the school is currently interested in headset-based virtual reality. And so that's something that the event is going to be talking about. The Vicara one that's coming up right after this one is a survey that we did. So I'm going to kind of breeze past that and move straight into the Antique Pattern Library, which is a really cool library. It's currently only online. And we are trying to kind of connect it into our virtual worlds. It's a sister project. Yeah, and the headset-based was correct for the VR side, but just web-based for Antique Pattern Library. So it doesn't have a virtual world presence yet of any kind. And so we're trying to pull them in, and we currently could use a volunteer interested in crafting or trying to get into building or interested in antique patterns. And so it could be things like crocheting, knotwork, or metalwork, woodworking. So that's where that falls. I don't want to, again, take too much time, so I'm kind of breezing through it, but there is a little more information in the script that Val had put up there. And then I'll go straight. Yes, exactly. Yeah, lots of great textures for fashion. And we've got a great idea for an exhibit, and we've got the Antique Pattern Library director 100% on board with us. She's never been into a virtual world. She's very much so interested in scanning in patterns and has all of her time taken up with maintaining that database, the pattern library. But the fact that she's willing to work with us is something that has been just so awesome as somebody who she hadn't heard of virtual worlds before. And she's saying, oh yeah, absolutely. Just tell me what pictures you need. And that sort of thing. So she's been really awesome. She's based in Amsterdam too. So a lot of the patterns come from that part of the world. because she started out with a big collection from her family and has kind of moved from that. Moving on to CVL's Virtual Worlds database, a big part of my presentation was first to introduce you guys to 3 communities that CVL works with, and then I was just going to mention that CVL also has a virtual communities database. It's all about cataloging communities so that we can connect with each other, specifically educational communities. And I've just mentioned too that I'm always working on the database. It's currently up to date as far as submissions that I've got. I've put a link in to the script that Val has given you guys. And you'll be able to click on that and read about the database. You'll be able to find a link to the database, as well as a link if you're interested in volunteering for the database, and a link if you have some communities that you want to submit because they're not in the database. If you want to update a community that's in the database, if you see that there's information that's not correct. And I am also interested in headset-based VR communities. So if anybody has a VR community like that, that's got headset capabilities that you think would be a good addition to the database, go ahead and feel free to fill out the form. I'm not going to be adding them to the database right now, but I am going to be collecting those so that we can see perhaps maybe a separate collection in the database or something like that. Because that's something where there are quite a few of those now. I think that's all there is for me, a kind of, very quick bloop, because I know we've only got 10 minutes and there's Bethany's got some really awesome stuff going on. So
Awesome. Thank you, Elise. There's so many ways to help virtual world educators and communities connect and collaborate. So now on to Bethany.
Hi, everyone. I will keep this super short because I know we're behind on time. My name is Bethany, and I'm an instructional designer at San Jose State University. So I work in the physical world supporting faculty with integrating technology, and I've been playing around with virtual worlds for about 6 years. I started volunteering with CVL because I'm excited about what I see people doing in virtual worlds, and I really want to get more people aware and ultimately involved in world. And I really think this moment is the right time for people to have a second look at Second Life. So I'm the project lead for the hypergrid resource centers that we have in OpenSim. CVL started here in Second Life like 10 years ago, but we are actively exploring other virtual worlds and VR as with Vicara. But in other virtual worlds, we have 2 locations in OpenSim. One is Avacon and the other one is on Kitely. And our mission for these locations really is to help educators to find other educational worlds and connect them with their tribe, their community of peers. So this started for me a couple years ago when I joined CVL, and it was a way to help people who are new to virtual worlds outside of Second Life hopefully overcome some of the challenges that kind of come up. So in my initial work, I really tried to create information that would help to explain what were very confusing concepts to me when I was new with OpenSim. And if you're newer to Second Life, if there's anyone here that is new to Second Life, I hope that you'll consider connecting with CVL, and you don't need to worry about what hypergridding is. The Hypergrid Resource Center. Hypergridding is a kind of a way of teleporting from place to place, but it's not as seamless as it is here. But we really wanted to provide a way for visitors to come on their own and get some information, connect to the Virtual Worlds database that Elise is doing. And there's, informational articles and note cards, and this has sort of evolved over time. We have other areas that are in various stages of development. Public spaces. This is a library after all. And if somebody wanted to start practicing meeting students, maybe they don't have their own virtual space yet. They want to maybe meet with colleagues in World or just sort of need a place to call home. We have a large gallery building with the beginnings of a collection that I hope to grow of open educational resources, like examples of what immersive lessons should look like. Or, there's an underwater ocean exhibit area. There's a lot of spaces to explore. And these are the kind of spaces an educator who's newer to virtual worlds might find helpful in terms of getting started. Because if you're a new educator coming into the virtual world, maybe some of you remember this, it's sometimes kind of lonely. If you're a lone educator at your institution and you don't have a tribe yet, please come and talk to one of us, because I found that it was getting involved with CVL 2 years ago that I found the way to contribute to this community and at the same time grow my own skills and expertise about virtual environments and education. So that brings me to my next slide, which is a bit of a plug for the Hypergrid. The right next door to the Hypergrid Resource Centers is the Antique Pattern Library space, which is on Kitely. And this is a beautiful environment. And so if you're a lone educator, maybe you're brand new looking to start out and wanting to get involved in community, I really encourage you to consider joining us. It would be a great place for somebody obviously who has some knowledge or experience with this sort of thing. But you know, we welcome people who are just passionate, who want to get involved and, you know, can contribute. And this is a space where your own ideas can really blossom. So, you know, finally, you know, designing effective immersive learning experiences, I think it requires familiarity with technologies that are very quickly changing. And it also will kind of assume that you're familiar with the long history of immersive learning, which is in desktop VR here in Second Life. And tinkering in virtual worlds with other educators right now is the best opportunity for experiential preparation, and it requires no special equipment, you know, just your computer and your internet connection. So start building relationships across institutions and disciplines right now by volunteering with us. So that's my little quick for how fabulous it is collaborating with people with Community Virtual Library.
Thank you, Bethany. That was fast and furious. I feel like we really were on some kind of space mission with all these tech glitches, and we managed to get through them. And you know, these colleagues have shown just a few examples of amazing teamwork, and it takes teamwork. It's essential in virtual spaces. So you might be thinking, well, I don't know what I have to offer or how I would want to be involved. There's whatever it is you're doing, you don't have to add on to it to help join CVL. We want to help you. We could exhibit your work. We have great exhibit areas to really highlight what it is you're already doing. We'd love to have more cross-community events to show off what you're doing, and even lead tours like we've done with Brent Knutson at the Medieval Quest, or at what we do at the Dickens Project with Shawnee Library. We want to explore new worlds if you're interested in the hypergrid that Bethany was talking about, Avacon, OpenSim, Kitely. But especially, we really want to put the word out if there's an artist out there or someone who's interested in old manuscripts and history. The Antique Pattern Library in Kitely is a fabulous opportunity. You could contact me or Bethany if you're interested. And the slide I'm putting up now is our Digital Citizenship Museum, which if you're interested in digital citizenship, we have tons of resources there, and we could use you to add content there as well. So we have all these ways that we would like to promote what you're doing and also collaborate and network with you, both in Second Life, which is our main branch, and then also in our other locations, such as in Kitely. This is a picture of the Antique Pattern Library in Kitely, where we have our Hypergrid Resource Library and our Digital Citizenship Museum. So this was fast and furious, as I said. We've talked about ways that we can help your community with exhibits, presentations you might want to do for the ACRL Virtual World Interest Group, which is part of the American Library Association, and just future research. If you're doing research in any kind of virtual world environments, we're creating a bibliography of virtual world research. So whatever it is you're doing, if you contact us later, we would like to help advocate best practices for learning in virtual worlds. So that was fast and furious, and I think we're actually going to be able to make it because some of us are going next to a presentation for Vicara on virtual world research in VR, which of course we're in VR right now. You don't have to have a headset. So yes, come to the Community Virtual Library exhibit. You'll see that on your HUD. And thank you very much for hanging in there.